Hello, and welcome to Frankly Speaking, the show where we drill deep into the insights of some of the leading policymakers and business people in the Middle East and indeed the world. I'm Frank Kane. Today, I'm delighted to be joined in the studio by Jerry Inzerillo, Chief Executive of Ad Diriyah Gate Development Authority. Diriyah Gate is one of the flagship projects of Saudi Arabia's Vision 2030 strategy, a $40 billion development in the historic heart of Riyadh and a global hub for leisure and cultural tourism. Mr. Inzerillo, welcome to Frankly Speaking.
Thank you. It's a great honor to be with you, Frank, especially face-to-face in the studio. Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. It's always better face-to-face, isn't it?
It is indeed.
Mr. Inzerillo, let me jump straight in and ask you. Diriyah Gate plans to attract 100,000 residents, 27 million visits by 2030. With Saudi Arabia a relative newcomer to the tourism industry, and with the effects of the pandemic that we're still going through, tell me, frankly speaking, is this remotely feasible?
We think it is. And, there's two things. One is a fact, and that is that, when we considered opening up the kingdom to tourism in September of 2019, we said to ourselves, let's monitor this a little bit. So out of the 238 countries, we only opened up to 49 countries plus Macau and Hong Kong. And then we put in the new electronic visa system, thanks to our wonderful His Excellency Ahmed Al-Khatib and our Ministry of Tourism. And we were doing 55,000 visas a week prior to protecting the society and having to shut it down to COVID in March of 2020. What that gave us an indication of was the great interest in the kingdom from Saudi travel, Saudi within Saudi travel, Gulf travel, and international travel. So statistically, we feel very strongly in the Ministry of Tourism and the Saudi Tourism Authority and the Giga projects of which Diriyah, the birthplace of the kingdom, is one, that is very achievable. Now, the other thing is that in the vision of 2030, His Royal Highness went on TV a month ago, you may recall, with very specific initiatives and resources to upgrade the city of Riyadh to be one of the 10 great cities in the world and to take its population base from 7.2 million to 15 million people, because we have so many people by the hundreds of thousands and soon millions moving back. So there's demographical factors and there's tourism factors that make us very, very confident, especially in the mother city, the principal city, and especially because Diriyah is the birthplace of the kingdom, the birthplace of the Arabian Peninsula, and the House of Al Saud. So we feel very comfortable.
Okay. You're after heritage and cultural tourism, but who is the target audience? Are they Saudis? Are they international tourists? Who are you after? Who do you want to get there?
Yeah, it's a great question. We look at it, we're different than even some of the other Giga projects, because we look at the target audience in 5 segments in a broad way. Now, obviously, when we have meetings in tourism, it's 100, 200 segments, but let's look at it in 5 buckets. We feel very deeply that we have to benefit the community we serve, because a lot of times around the world, you get these big developments and they leave their own community behind. So right now, we don't buy a single thing without buying from Diriyah first. Now, Diriyah is a thriving community within the municipality, within the metroplex of Riyadh. So even our first district, which will be ready by the new year, is catered to Diriyah residents. That's one bucket with a full marketing plan. Riyadh as a global city, as a full market plan. Saudis traveling within Saudi, which was abundant during the COVID. We could talk about that. Then Gulf, because Saudis have one of the highest tourism spends outside the kingdom. We had one of the highest tourism spends in the world during COVID because of nationalism and Saudis supporting the kingdom. So Saudis coming back to their birthplace, and then, of course, the entire international market.
Okay, so it's both. You want citizens of Saudi Arabia and international tourists, but regardless of who they are, there is an awful lot of competition out there, isn't there? Why would an aficionado of leisure and culture want to come to comparatively small Diriyah in Riyadh compared to, for example, the pyramids or the Acropolis or the Colosseum in Rome?
It's exactly that reason. Because, and this also changed during COVID. What happened with COVID, when people were cooped up for a year, and this only accelerated a trend that was happening for the last 20 years, and that is people want human touch, but they want authenticity. They want to see real things, not fake things. Now, listen, you can go and see make-believe pyramids where I went to school in Las Vegas. Not as emotional as seeing the real pyramids. You could create a Petra somewhere, not as real. You know, the Crown Prince had a state visit from President Vladimir Putin of Russia. Now, as you know, President Putin is a very composed person, doesn't demonstrate great emotion in public. He had a dinner with the Crown Prince at Diriyah. And you know what he said? This is a very emotional place because it's rich. It's got 300-400 years of culture. So the birthplace of the kingdom is actually that. It is to Saudi Arabia what the Acropolis is to the Greeks, what the Colosseum is, what Machu Picchu is. So when people come to the Gulf, they're going to want to say, where did it start? Where is the house of Al Saud? One family in continuity and vision for 130 years. Now, sometimes people say to me, you have so many giga projects going around the kingdom. Are they in competition of each other? No, they're very carefully thought out because the kingdom controls 45% of the Red Sea. It's abundantly beautiful. We have 5 UNESCO World Heritage Sites, all with different personalities. So people are going to come to see a beautiful country that they've never seen before.
I was going to ask you about that, Mr. Inzerillo, about the fact that there are a lot of projects in a similar vein in the kingdom. It seems as though the kingdom is almost rediscovering its heritage and its history. Are those competing? Are they complementing? How does a Diriyah fit into that scheme?
Yeah, they are not in competition. They're very intelligently crafted to complement each other. And here's a way to look at it. If you look at the tourism profiles of the G20, these profiles have been put together 50 years, like Singapore, 100 years, 200 years. You look at the richness of Spain, France, Germany, England. Now, all of that is here in the kingdom, but for different reasons, and we know them historically, we can talk about them. We had the courage, thanks to the custodian of the 2 holy mosques and our dynamic Crown Prince, to open the kingdom to tourism. Well, you're not opening the kingdom to one city. You're opening the kingdom to a large country with vast geographical personalities. So even in the kingdom, food, dance, music, costuming, topography. You know, when you say to people it snows in the north in Tabuk, wait a minute, I thought Saudi Arabia was just deserts and camels. Oh, kind of a boring stereotype. But you can't reverse this stereotype unless people come to visit, which is why you have to praise the custodian of the 2 holy mosques and the Crown Prince to allow it. But now it appears that there's a lot of giga projects. But it's only because, if you look at Singapore, what Lee Kuan Yew did, 50 years, what a success story. You look at the great vision of the Emirates, right? 30 years, basically. The Crown Prince is going to accomplish that in 15 years in a big, beautiful country. So you need all these giga projects, but none are in competition of each other. Okay. They're all complementary. And by the way, all the CEOs, very, very close to one another, because we're excited about the national profile.
Okay. Mr. Inzerillo, you have insisted that the pandemic lockdown will not affect the progress of Diriyah and other projects. How can you be so certain of this? How can Diriyah possibly escape the economic and financial effects of the lockdown recession?
Yeah, it's, again, thank you for that, because there's 2 things. There's the reality of interruption of revenue. Right? Now, because our national tourism strategy is in its infancy, it's just beginning. right? So we're only 3% of GDP. We will grow to 10% of GDP. So if you're going to have an interruption and you're Spain or you're France or you're America, and your contribution is 8%, 9%, 10% of GDP, the effects of COVID were very devastating on the national, on those tourism profiles and globally. But because we were coming off a low base, we didn't feel the seismic result of that as other countries did. But then we had something else happen. And that is that because of the nationalism and the spend of the Saudis, by everybody staying in the kingdom and going from Jeddah to Diriyah and Diriyah to Al Ula and Al Ula to Red Sea, we almost had not only no interruption in the drop of revenue, our domestic revenues went up. Okay, so because we started from a lower base, we really didn't have the disruption. But here's the other thing. The Crown Prince knew we're going to come up with a solution to the COVID. There will be a vaccine.
Right.
We will vaccinate and protect our society first and foremost. So we have to be bold, and we're not cutting back the budgets. So our budgets, the other giga projects, but he was strict. You must stay on time. So we executed our exact strategy. All of 2020 did not cut back.
Right.
He was bold. All of 2021. So now as a result of it, the major giga projects in the kingdom, remarkably, with the good news of the vaccines, thanks to his vision and his tenacity, and I would say his courage, are on time and on budget.
Okay, and this applies to all of them. There's no sense in which Diriyah Gate is the preferred project, you know, the birthplace of Saudi Arabia.
All of the projects are on time and on budget. However, there's only one Diriyah. So we're the firstborn, we're the favorite son. So my fellow CEOs will come on the show and say, no, we're great. They're all great. We love them, but there's only one Diriyah.
Let me ask you about the finances, because there seems to have been a change here, doesn't there? The budget figure was $27 billion. Now I hear that it's $40 billion. What's happened? Have you been given some more money?
Yes, we have, but it's not that we were given some more money. That's a result of a change in vision. This is very interesting because a lot of people don't notice about the Crown Prince. The Crown Prince is not a sequential learner. With him, he is left brain, right brain. He's very methodical. What's your process? How did you study this issue? Who did you study it with? Did you study it with the world's best? What did you learn? And what options are you bringing to me? He studies them meticulously. But even though he's the smartest guy in the room, his visual acuity is amazing. So when you leave a meeting with an approval, he doesn't stop. 1 day, 2 days, 5 days later, you'll get a call from him. If you connect that with that, does it make Diriyah better? Yes, sir. We didn't see that. If you add this asset to that, does it make Diriyah better? Does it make it more fun? Does it make it? So now what's happened is that the master plans on its research have evolved into a broader vision to allow it to be a component to take Riyadh to be one of the 10 great cities of the world. So the same way Paris was master planned and laid out, the same way Berlin was laid out, the same way Manhattan, which is a very complicated, long island. This is how the Crown Prince looks at all the cities, and that's why we've grown. So in the growth, you have to have the money to correspond to add the assets to that, which is why the budget has grown.
Just on finance again, what's the financial mix? I guess the big proportion is government money, but what about private investment? What about foreign investments?
Yeah, that's where the COVID had an impact on us. And I'll give you an anecdote in a second to show how courageous and bold the Crown Prince is. Prior to the COVID, we had a lot of Saudi investment, Saudi conglomerate, Saudi entrepreneurial investment, a lot of Gulf investment. And we had a surprising amount of foreign investment. So much so that the Crown Prince set up a whole new ministry. And you had His Excellency Al Fali on with you recently, a great show. And he's an amazing guy. Now, where the COVID confused things is that in the CEOs, they still don't know what the bottom is in their commercial. So we did not lose one project, one announced project. But a lot of the CEOs, the foreign CEOs, came back to us and said, Jerry, we need another budget cycle before we can determine the equity pickup. You know what the Crown Prince said and the board? Do not lose any time. So if we have to fund it to build the commercial assets while the entrepreneurial investors are figuring out their investment strategy, we will give them the opportunity to buy the equity out. Now, what we will do as DGDA and as a government on assets that are low return on investment assets, infrastructure, cultural institutions, a mosque, a museum that doesn't have the same ROI as a hotel, a restaurant, we will build and be the developer on those, and we will own and operate them, right? We don't want anybody owning and operating the House of Al Saud because that's the House of Al Saud. We will own that, right? But all the other commercial assets are meant for foreign investment.
Okay. So
foreign and Saudi investment, forgive me.
Yeah. So it seems as though the government bridged the gap that was there, but that gap could still be filled by foreign and private investment anyway.
Yes, and what we have a whole division of DGDA, again, a rock star team that are meeting every single day now. Foreign investors, Gulf investors, and an unbelievable amount of Saudi investors. Now, just with Ministry of Investment, Ministry of Commerce, Ministry of the Economy, and Ministry of Finance, there isn't a single day where we're not hosting someone at Dedeya, taking them out to dinner.
Right. Mr. Inzerillo, you have vast experience of the global tourism business. You trained in Las Vegas. You worked with Kirshner, one of the great names in the international business. You were editor of the Forbes Travel Guide for many years. So you know this business. Frankly speaking, tell me, can any destination really compete on a global basis without alcohol in its food and beverage mix?
Yeah, it's a great question. And when we started doing focus groups on what would attract people to Saudi Arabia, those questions came up. Questions about costuming and apparel. Those questions came up. We had some questions that came up in the preliminaries that were honest but a little strange. Am I allowed to stay in the same hotel room with my wife? Right? Well, this is because the kingdom wasn't open to tourism. But this is very interesting. When we did the post review, after people had visited us, issues of alcohol wasn't even in the top 5, because what happened is that people were astonished about the beauty of the kingdom. Instagram giving all the different views around the kingdom. They were astonished at the warmth of the Saudi people, how much fun they had, that by the time their first day, second day came, those weren't even issues. Now, we did relax dress code, and all the people that came, like non-Muslim women that are traveling into the kingdom, if you don't want to wear an abaya or don't want to wear a headscarf, you don't have to. But you know what we found out in the post? Many people enjoyed it because now it's a fashion item. And, it's not just the conservative apparel that was, 1979, 1989, even 1999. So now, like a lot of the visitors that are coming, they like dressing up, right? And they find it respectful to the customs of the kingdom. So some of the issues that continue to come up, we have found that they're less of an issue when we asked in the post.
Okay, you're an American, obviously, from Brooklyn, but you live in Riyadh, and the kingdom has tried to promote the expat life in the kingdom as more comfortable, more livable. What's your view? What would you say to Americans considering working in the kingdom now?
Yeah, I would say it broader than Americans. I would say all expats. Now, 20% of our staff are expats because there are still expertises that Saudi's learning. Certain areas, Saudi's abundant with engineers, great contractors, but certain development areas learning. in the issues of marketing and in the issues of entertainment, learning. But if you look at another former guest, His Royal Highness Prince Abdulaziz, our wonderful Ministry of Sport, you look at our great General Entertainment Authority, you look at the amazing job that Prince Badr is doing in Ministry of Culture, we attract expats. But what I would say, and this came up, I did 100 interviews during the G20. One of the biggest questions is, what's your favorite thing about Saudi Arabia? Here's the thing. In most of the G20 countries now, for one reason or another, the societies are polarized. People are not polite to each other. They don't talk to each other. They raise their voice. I mean, there's conflict, even in America, right? One of the things that all my expats love, I haven't lost one expat to lifestyle. I've lost them with COVID. I missed my kids. COVID was complicated. But what everybody likes, it's a polite society. Now, you can go out to restaurants, the same beautiful restaurants you have here, you have in Saudi, music, boys, girls, everybody having a good time. You have it. You have everything there. But the number one thing that people like is civility, is the fact that you're treated warmly and kindly. And the one great thing about the kingdom right now as a society, it's optimistic, it's positive. Now, if you look at King Fahad as Minister of Education, when he became king, and then when King Abdullah became king, and then when King Salman became king, they doubled down, tripled down on investing in college education for young Saudis. There's 600,000 Saudis that were the benefit of the generosity of the kingdom. You know what happened? They're all coming home. They're young. They're fired up. Now, Diriyah, almost 1,200 people. The average age of my staff is 31. You take me out, the average is probably 24, right? But they're fired up. The society is positive and optimistic, and that spills into the expat community.
Finally, what differences have you noticed in terms of management style, business culture between working in the US or elsewhere in the world and Saudi Arabia?
Yeah, I mean, I wish we could give the Crown Prince a different title. I wish we could call him, instead of CEO, we could call him SC CEO, because we would call him the supercharged CEO, because, he's 80 hours a week, he's focused, he's in all the details, but he's kind. What would make Diriyah better? What would make Red Sea better? What would make Alula better? Because he wants a good quality of life for everyone, right? So with us now, we look at all the positive things, and we now know we're on something special. So the next few years are going to be very bright. We say to the world, come visit us. Only one Diriyah. I have to say that because we're Diriyah, but there is only one Diriyah.
Mr. Inzerillo, your enthusiasm is infectious, and I'm very grateful for your insights today. Thank you very much for coming on to Frankly Speaking.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you. It's a great honor
Thanks
for
a
me.
lot.
Thank you.